"Diana, Alicia had a heart attack and she's in the hospital," my son-in-law, Jasper, said over the phone, his voice so cold it froze my soul. I raced to the hospital, frantic, but when I arrived, the devastating news hit me like a dagger. My daughter was gone. During the funeral, while everyone was still lost in grief, Jasper made an announcement that left me breathless. "I'm getting married again, to the CEO's daughter. You can either keep the girls or I'll send them to foster care." The silence was shattered by the unexpected laughter of my 3 granddaughters. I was stunned. What I discovered next was simply unbelievable. Welcome to the channel. If you're enjoying this story, subscribe and give the video a thumbs up to catch the next one. My name is Diana. I raised my daughter, Alicia, on my own after losing my husband when I was still in my 30s. We went through some tough times, especially during her rebellious phase in high school. Times that now bring a nostalgic smile to my face. But through it all, I filled her life with all the love I could offer. When Alicia got into college, she told me something that has been etched in my memory ever since. "Mom, you went through so much to raise me. I want to pay you back by being a good daughter." My eyes filled with tears in that moment. After graduating, Alicia landed an excellent job at a prestigious company. She was dedicated, patient, and rarely complained, even on the hardest days. Sometimes I wished she would confide in me more, but she always found time to surprise me, whether it was with a special trip for my birthday or a gift on Mother's Day. "Thank you, Alicia. I'm so lucky," I would tell her, and she would always reply, "Me too, Mom." In those moments, we'd share a shy smile, as if we were guarding a precious secret. It didn't take long for Alicia to tell me about Jasper. She said he was practically a legend among the female employees, with his TV drama heartthrob looks and modern-day prince charm. Tall, handsome, and always impeccably dressed, Jasper seemed to be the dream of many women. I wondered what had led him to choose Alicia out of so many. "Why did I choose Alicia?" Jasper repeated my question with a smile. "Well, she takes her work seriously, and she's very devoted to her family, which is something I really admire. I was just drawn to someone so wonderful." He blushed slightly as he exchanged a look with Alicia, and in that moment, I saw how perfect they seemed together. They married a few years later and were blessed with 3 daughters. Alicia and Jasper continued to work at the same company, but he was now in the human resources department. Jasper's popularity didn't wane, even after marriage and kids. Female employees still flocked to him, which began to make Alicia uncomfortable. She mentioned once that she frequently received packed lunches from various colleagues. Although Jasper said he politely refused them, Alicia still felt uneasy. "I hope that's true," I commented with a touch of humor. Jasper seemed sincere, but you know how some people just love to steal someone else's partner. Alicia nodded, chewing on a snack. Since becoming a mother, I noticed Alicia had grown stronger in many aspects of her life, both as a wife and a mom. She was constantly evolving, but whenever something worried her, I tried to be there to support her. My 3 granddaughters, Filipa the eldest, and the twins, Stella and Gabriela, were inseparable despite their age difference. Filipa was in the 9th grade, and the twins were in the 5th. They shared a passion for mystery novels. Last Christmas, they asked for the complete works of Conan Doyle as a gift. I was surprised, wondering if it was appropriate for their age, but the 3 of them just laughed and declared themselves mystery geeks. Their rooms were filled with books from the genre. During summer break, my granddaughters loved spending a few days with me, and I cherished every moment. "Grandma, let's go to the movies," Filipa said once. "They're showing an Agatha Christie movie," Stella added excitedly. "And I want popcorn," Gabriela completed with a mischievous grin. Seeing those radiant smiles made me want to spoil them whenever I could. Alicia always warned me not to spoil them too much, but how could I resist? Then, on a hot summer day, I received a call that froze my heart. The news was devastating. Alicia had lost consciousness. "Jasper, is it true?" I asked, my voice trembling, feeling my heart shatter into a million pieces. Yet he responded with a calmness that unnerved me. When I got the call from the hospital saying Alicia was there, I felt like my world was collapsing. I frantically hailed a cab, my heart pounding a mile a minute as I headed to the hospital where Alicia and Jasper were. But by the time I arrived, my daughter had already passed. Tears started rolling down my face immediately, and a deep sense of regret washed over me, stronger than the sadness itself. I called out Alicia's name over and over, as if I could somehow bring her back, but her forever closed eyelids would never open again. The doctor reported the cause of death was a heart attack. Jasper was there with the 3 girls by his side, crying loudly. It was natural for them to be heartbroken. They were still young, facing the most difficult loss of their lives. I hugged them tightly, trying to offer them the comfort that, deep down, I also needed. "It's okay, girls. Go ahead and cry. We're going to give your mom a dignified farewell," I whispered, holding them in the hospital hallway. But as I looked at Jasper, something began to feel wrong. "Why, Alicia? Why now?" He turned his back to us, perhaps trying to hide his tears, but something didn't add up. When he finally turned around, his eyes were dry. There was no sign of tears on his face. "I'm sorry I lost my composure. I need to get back to the office and report what happened," he said with a disturbing calm. "Can't you do that over the phone?" "And what about the girls?" I asked, shocked by his coldness. "Diana, please, take the girls home with you." "I'm so sorry, but please," he asked, and then left, as serene as if nothing serious had happened. After he left, the entire responsibility of the arrangements and paperwork fell on me. Jasper always found an excuse to be absent, whether it was a business meeting or a dinner with an important client. The funeral was no different. He spent more time looking at his phone than offering condolences. "It's a client. It seems one of our subordinates caused the problem. I have to take care of it," he said distractedly, as if it were just another day at work. However, many people from the company were at the funeral. Alicia's and Jasper's colleagues, bosses, subordinates, everyone came to pay their respects. Colleagues who had lunch with Alicia shared their memories, praising her kindness and dedication. Everyone agreed. Alicia was an exemplary professional with innovative ideas that no one else could match, which led her to great success on major projects. As I listened to these stories, I realized how much my daughter had kept her achievements to herself. Learning this side of her now, in the midst of the pain of her loss, filled me with a bittersweet mix of pride and sadness. During the funeral, the tension between Jasper and me only grew. At one point, I couldn't hold back. "You're the husband, Jasper. At least give a proper farewell speech." He sighed, visibly annoyed, and muttered that he would. But before he could say anything, a woman approached him. "My condolences," she said, but her tone changed immediately upon seeing me. Something in the air became thick. My instincts flared up, but Jasper remained indifferent, greeting her with a warm smile. "Lisa, I'm so glad you could make it, despite being so busy," he said, almost emotionally. Then he turned to me and added, "Diana, this is Lisa, the CEO's daughter." As I watched them, something inside me screamed that this wasn't right. Jasper and Lisa were too close for just acquaintances or colleagues. Even at the funeral, Lisa clung to Jasper in a way that hinted at a disturbing intimacy. That night, after putting my granddaughters to bed, I decided to confront Jasper. He didn't even try to hide it. "Lisa is practically my girlfriend," he said with contempt. I was speechless. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Girlfriend? But you're married to Alicia," I stammered, still trying to process it. Jasper, however, remained cold. "After we got married, I realized Alicia was too simple. Just a mother of 3, he said dismissively. Even though we had money, she always saved for the girls. I got tired of living like I was poor. I tried to argue, talking about the importance of saving for the girls' education, but he cut me off sharply. I told her many times I wanted a divorce, but Alicia always refused. She said it wouldn't be good for the girls, at least not until they were adults. Jasper seemed incapable of understanding Alicia's sacrifice. Raised by a single mother, she did everything possible to prevent her daughters from going through the same experience. She always prioritized the girls and put me second. It irritated me deeply, he continued, getting more and more agitated as he fiddled with his phone. I started seeing Lisa to blow off steam, and honestly, I started to feel like it would be better if Alicia just wasn't around anymore. His words left me breathless. I couldn't form a response, as he, with a chilling calm, continued. Anyway, I'm marrying the CEO's daughter. The girls are a burden, so you take care of them, old woman. The contempt in his voice was sharp. He was abandoning his family without the slightest remorse. Before I could answer, Jasper quickly left the house. Despite having attended the funeral as the chief mourner, he disappeared shortly after, leaving my granddaughters in a panic. I tried to contact him, but he simply wouldn't answer. I later found out that Jasper had taken paid leave from work and wasn't at the office. As if nothing mattered. Alicia had never consulted me about the divorce. It was something she handled alone. Although it wasn't my place to get involved in their marital issues, I regret not offering advice. Maybe I could have done something. But now was not the time for regrets. I gave myself a light pat on the cheek, trying to focus on what I needed to do. I packed a bag and went to my granddaughter's house to be there for them and help them face the situation. When the girls saw me, it was as if a wave of relief washed over them. They burst into tears, releasing all the accumulated tension and fear. They must have been terrified by their father's disappearance. Everything will be all right. I'm here now, I said, hugging them, trying to give them the security they so desperately needed. Then I prepared dinner and took care of the house, taking on the role that Jasper had abandoned without a second thought. As I was tidying up, my eyes fell on the calendar on the wall. A date was circled in red with the words, "Summer vacation begins," written next to it. The vacation would start the following week. "Grandma, you came to our house this year," said Stella, hugging me around the waist. Her eyes were still red from crying, but there was an expression of innocent hope on her face. Philippa and Gabriela, on the other hand, were quieter. They didn't say anything, but it was clear they were trying to process everything that had happened. I knew I had to be strong for them. As I spent more time with my granddaughters, I decided to start sorting through Alicia's belongings. Every object I picked up brought a wave of memories and emotions. Why did my daughter, whom I raised with so much love and effort, have to leave so soon? I thought, feeling a silent rage against the injustice of fate. Among Alicia's belongings, I found a diary that stood out from the rest. It had a combination lock, something unusual. Suddenly, I remembered something Alicia had mentioned a few months earlier. She said that if anything happened to her, I should look for the diary with the lock. She also told me the combination, the sum of her, Jasper's, the girls, and my birthdays. With trembling hands, I turned the numbers, 2788. The diary clicked open. My heart was racing, wondering what I might find inside. Perhaps a will? Despite my hesitation, curiosity won, and I began to flip through the pages. The first words sent a chill down my spine. If you are reading this diary, it means I have already left this world. I took a deep breath, trying to compose myself, and continued reading. What I discovered was unbelievable. Alicia had recorded her suspicions of Jasper's infidelity and detailed the process of collecting evidence against him. But it wasn't just that. The diary also revealed the abusive working conditions she faced at the company. There were records of undeclared overtime and situations where she was prevented from going to the hospital, even when she complained about her deteriorating health. Alicia had hidden recordings and other data proving her accusations elsewhere. Determined, I began to search and finally found that evidence. What I discovered would change everything. I decided to listen to the recordings immediately. Soon, I was confronted with the harsh voice of a manager, severely reprimanding Alicia when she asked to go to the hospital. The cruelty in his voice left me in shock. But as I continued to listen, it became clear. Jasper had orchestrated Alicia's transfer to work under that strict boss as part of his betrayal. The diary ended with Alicia's intentions. She was preparing to demand compensation from Jasper and his mistress, using the evidence she had collected, and to move forward with the divorce. The three sisters, despite everything, continued to go to school bravely. I did my best to take care of them, trying to make sure they didn't get overwhelmed. A week passed, and with the start of summer vacation, the sunflowers in the garden were almost ready to bloom. After the vacation began, my granddaughter spent more time in Jasper's room. Despite everything he had done, he was still their father, and they were searching, however unconsciously, for some kind of acknowledgement. Knowing this broke my heart. While I continued to organize Alicia's belongings, I also took care of the girls. One day while they were in the room, I brought them snacks and orange juice. "Here's some juice for you," I said, trying to keep a light tone. They were busy looking through books and scrapbooks that Jasper had left behind, as if searching for some treasure. Sometimes they also used the family computer or tablet, and I thought they were working on some vacation project. One day, I came back from shopping and heard laughter coming from the living room. "What's going on? It sounds like you're having a lot of fun," I asked curiously. As I got closer, Gabriela noticed me, and with a mischievous smile, quickly grabbed the paper that had just come out of the printer and handed it to me. "With this, Dad is going to hell," Gabriela said, leaving me completely confused. I looked at the paper she had given me. It was a printout from an anonymous message board titled, "Gather here if you want your wife to die." I was in shock, not understanding what it meant. Noticing my confusion, Philippa explained, "Grandma, look at this, in red. That person's username is Jasper." "Jasper?" I asked, incredulous. "Yes," Philippa confirmed. "Comments posted from this internet connection show up in red. So that's Dad's comment." My heart stopped for a moment. Jasper's comment was indeed in red, and as I continued to read, I became more horrified, discovering how he had cruelly and premeditatedly planned and executed his betrayal. Jasper's words, read with growing horror, were terrifying. He detailed how he abused his authority in the HR department to transfer Alicia to a troubled department where the team was always overloaded. Knowing Alicia's extreme dedication, he was sure she would stay late every day, racking up overtime. "Works over 80 hours of overtime a month. She'll collapse from exhaustion soon," he wrote, as if it were a cruel joke. The shock only grew. Pretending to care about her health, Jasper prepared unhealthy meals loaded with oil and salt, laughing as he watched her eat them daily. When Alicia mentioned her health checkup results were bad, he coldly refused to let her go to the hospital or get retested. The malicious words he posted were followed by equally disturbing responses from others on the forum. Some called him a monster, while others encouraged him to continue. The final post was the cruelest of all. Jasper recounted Alicia's death with a grotesque tone of joy. "Finally, my wife is gone. She was taken to the hospital with a heart attack. I'm pretending to be sad, but now I can get rid of the kids too," he wrote, while other comments congratulated him, expressed envy, or cheered him on. I could barely believe what I was reading. The man who seemed so polite and affectionate was actually a cold and wicked manipulator. Rage grew inside me with every word, but a bigger surprise was yet to come. My granddaughters, the 3 girls, had noticed Jasper's strange behavior for some time. "It's elementary, Watson," said Stella, imitating Sherlock Holmes. "Mom was always busy, but Dad seemed to have a lot of free time. That was strange." Gabriela then added, "When we discussed this with Dad, he said something. He said we didn't trust Mom, that she could leave any day." These discussions revealed that Jasper and the girls didn't get along as well as he made it seem. The 3 of them had already begun to distrust their father and had been watching him closely ever since. They noticed he used the computer to look up recipes and videos for unhealthy dishes, something he wouldn't normally do. In the tablet's search history, they found terms like unhealthy foods and salt content. They also knew about the mysterious woman who appeared in photos on the tablet and remembered the disturbing smile he showed right after Alicia's death and during the funeral. The final piece of the puzzle was in a scrapbook Jasper kept, filled with articles about people who collapse from overwork, some of whom were diagnosed with heart problems. "So, the 3 of us thought that was the culprit," said Philippa. Stella added, "We've been looking for evidence since the beginning of summer vacation." The 3 sisters' observation skills proved to be sharper than Jasper or I could have ever imagined. "It feels like a mystery novel," Gabriela said, referring to what they were living through. Curious, I asked Stella how they had discovered that message board. Proudly, she scoffed. "Besides checking the tablet's search history, we read books and restored the deleted history." "Watson," Gabriela said, imitating Sherlock Holmes once more. "Despite being only a 5th grader, Gabriela managed to restore the data, something no one would expect from such a young girl. Without that effort, we wouldn't have the printout of the messages in our hands. I thought about how these granddaughters, still so young and vulnerable, must have felt lonely and anxious after the loss of their mother. I remembered their relieved and tearful faces when they arrived at my house, trying to fight this situation. My eyes filled with tears. "Grandma, what's wrong?" Philippa asked, concerned. I knew I couldn't let the efforts of these little detectives go to waste. I bit my lip, looked at the three of them, and thought of Alicia. Jasper needed to face the consequences of what he did. I swore to myself that he would not escape unpunished and that he would be forced to meet his responsibilities. "Thank you, girls. Leave the rest to your grandmother," I told them with determination. Later, I went to see a trusted lawyer, bringing with me all the evidence the girls and I had gathered. My goal was clear. I wanted justice for Alicia. This included not only compensation, but also ensuring that Jasper paid for his crimes. The lawyer examined the printouts from the message board and the tablet's search history. I noticed his expression darken. "These pieces of evidence are useful, but they may not be strong enough to secure a criminal conviction," he said cautiously. "Then can we use this as evidence?" I asked, as I pulled out Alicia's diary and the audio recordings I had found among her belongings. He praised the diary and listened intently to the recordings, his eyes growing more focused with each word. After a few minutes, he turned to me with a more confident expression. "The combination of this diary with the audio recordings will significantly strengthen our case. Not only can we claim a large amount of compensation and child support, but we also have a solid basis to demand a criminal investigation." With this new hope, I decided to act. It wasn't enough for Jasper to lose his job and be abandoned by Lisa. He had to face the law. I sent copies of the recordings and the diary to the police, along with a formal request to open a criminal investigation against Jasper. The authorities, horrified by the meticulous cruelty of his actions, were quick to act. An investigation was opened, and Alicia's company was forced to cooperate fully. The days that followed were intense. Jasper was arrested in his rundown house without warning. He was led away in handcuffs, a look of panic on his face as the neighbors watched. For the first time, he felt the weight of his actions' consequences. During the trial, every detail of what he had done was exposed. Alicia's diary and the recordings were irrefutable proof. The prosecutor minced no words, describing Jasper as a cruel man who premeditatedly killed his wife, using his position of power to torture her physically and mentally until her body could no longer take it. The girls testified with surprising maturity, their statements painting a clear picture of how their father had turned into a true monster. When the verdict was delivered, the courtroom was in absolute silence. "Guilty," the judge announced, as Jasper, who had lost all his arrogance, shrank like a mouse. He was sentenced to a long prison term with no possibility of parole. But justice didn't end there. In prison, the news of Jasper's crimes spread quickly. Other inmates, many of them fathers, found out that he had planned and executed the death of his own wife and decided he needed to suffer even more. Jasper was constantly harassed and beaten, his body and mind rapidly deteriorating in that unforgiving environment. His life became an endless nightmare, each day a physical and psychological torture. The man who once controlled the lives of others now lived at the mercy of those who hated him. Meanwhile, outside the prison, Alicia's company was forced to pay a significant settlement. I used part of that money to create a foundation in Alicia's name, dedicated to supporting victims of workplace abuse. I wanted to make sure her suffering was not in vain and that other people could find a path to justice. My granddaughters, though still scarred by the loss of their mother, began to slowly recover. Philippa, Stella, and Gabriela could finally smile again, and I made sure to fill their lives with all the love and support they needed. Jasper's existence became a slow, cruel descent into the hell he himself created, and I, Diana, could finally feel that the world was a little more just, knowing that Jasper had received every drop of the cruelty he deserved. Thanks for listening to the story. Now, I'd love to hear what you think about it. Leave your comment below, share your impressions and opinions. Subscribe to the Velvet Vendetta channel and like the video for more stories to come.